Hello and welcome to today's session on introducing Aptim's Communications Connector with Microsoft Teams. I hope everyone's well today. Thank you for joining us. Just before we start the session, we'll just go through the usual house rules, and we'll give it a sort of a minute or so for everyone to join in the meantime. So we will be recording this session today. The session will be available on the Aptim Help Center, so you can share it with your colleagues. You are all muted today, so if you need assistance, please use the chat function in the right-hand panel. Alternatively, you can use the questions panel. And there will be an opportunity at the end of this session to ask questions. So please input your questions throughout the webinar, and we'll get to as many as we can at the end of the session. If we can't answer all of them, we'll follow up individually afterwards. And hopefully, we'll be able to get through all of those. So before we start the session, I'll just give a quick overview of who's your presenters. So you've got myself, Hardeep. I work in the marketing team, and I'll be sort of ensuring everything is running smoothly on your session today. And we've got Freya running today's session, and she's a product owner here at Aptim. She's been working within the apprenticeship sector for the last 4 years. She initially joined as an implementation consultant and now works as a product owner. She's got experience in working both with ITPs and also higher education institutions, developing compliance and quality assurance processes. So we've only got 15 minutes on today's session, so without further ado, I'll hand over to Freya to start the session.
Thanks, Hardeep. So today we're going to look at our new communications connector with Teams. We're going to look at what it is and what we intend to achieve with the feature. We're going to explore how to set up the communications connector, how the functionality will work for the different activity types listed on screen, and what you can expect from the integration in the future as well. Access to this feature does depend on your organization's chosen package and add-ons, so please speak to your designated Aptim champion or CSM for further information on getting access to this feature. So what is the Communications Connector with Teams then? So this feature allows customers to bring their Microsoft Teams license into Aptim to enable seamless integration and management of online events in Teams directly via the Aptim platform. The integration will work with review, meeting, and placement and workshop activity types. And in this session, we're going to explore the differences in how the integration will work across these activities. Firstly, let's talk about how you can set up the communications connector with Teams. So firstly, your organization will need to grant Aptim permission to access your Teams application and schedule meetings on behalf of your administrators. You also need to set up an access policy to let us know which tutors or administrators you want to be able to schedule online events via Aptim. This is usually done by your IT team or Microsoft admins, and so they'll be taking these actions for your organization. You will also need to specify a domain name, which is usually your email address. So for me, that would be aptim.co.uk. And this is the email address that tutors will need to be linked to, and they will need to have that email address linked to their Aptim account in order for the integration to schedule meetings in their Teams calendars. You'll also need to specify a scheduling time frame between 1 and 60 days. This determines how far in advance Aptim schedules your meetings and reviews. And we'll look at that a bit more in detail when we look at the examples. So first we're going to start with meetings and reviews and look at how the communications connector will work for these activity types. The communications connector works in the same way for review and meeting component types. So we're going to take these ones together. The way it works is that Aptim searches every 3 hours for new review or meeting tasks, which are flagged as Meet Online within your scheduling time frame, and it will schedule these meetings in your Teams calendar. So for example, if your scheduling time frame is 30 days, we'll look for meetings in the next 30 days to schedule every 3 hours. We'll create a meeting in your Teams calendar and then return that Teams link to Aptim as well. So let's walk through an example for reviews first of all. So because this is based on your Aptim tasks, so the tasks calendar in Aptim, these unscheduled reviews in the screenshot here will not yet be scheduled in my Teams calendar, even if they're within that 30-day time frame. This is because reviews don't generate a task until they are scheduled. So in order to schedule a review, we can use the scheduling assistant or the create/edit review form, and that's one displayed on screen here to schedule the review. Don't forget to check the Meet Online checkbox to flag this as a meeting that you would like to have on Teams. So if this isn't flagged, Aptem won't find it when it's searching for those meetings to schedule in Teams. Also note that the scheduling assistant doesn't offer the Meet Online checkbox in the user interface. So you need to ensure that the review is flagged as an online event, either in the component or the Create Edit Review form to ensure that it's scheduled in Teams. The meeting will then be scheduled in Teams within the next 3 hours, so long as the scheduled date is within your scheduling time frame. So if we look at the example in the screenshot here and use a 30-day scheduling time frame, the review for the 10th of May will be scheduled within the next 3 hours. And the review for the 12th of June will be scheduled in the first job that runs on the 12th of May, so 30 days before the review event date. The meeting then appears in your Teams calendar alongside all your other meetings. So we can see I've got the tripartite review here. And often your organization's Teams calendar settings will push your Teams meetings through to your Outlook calendar too. This is handled by Teams and not Aptem, but it's likely that you'll see these meetings in your Outlook calendar as this is usually the default setting. So for me, any meeting that I have in Teams will push through to my Outlook calendar. The meeting name follows the review name in Aptem, and the description is taken from the review task description in Aptem. So we've got this one called tripartite review here, and then we've got the review meeting with Jane as the meeting description. We've also added a note to advise the user that this meeting was scheduled by your tenant via the Aptem platform, so it's super clear what's been scheduled by Aptem, and if you have other meetings in your Teams calendar that are scheduled outside of Aptem. Just bear in mind that you can change the title and the description of your meeting in Teams, but it won't be reflected in Aptem. And if you change the title or description of these activities in Aptem after the meeting's been scheduled in Teams, this won't update in Teams either. And if you do have any feedback on this, for example, if this is something that you regularly do and you're often changing descriptions or titles, please do feed this back via your customer success manager for us to review how we can manage this in future. The learner will then be invited by email, and if the review is visible to the employer in the reviews token, the employer manager and mentor will also be invited by email, and the email will look as this one does above. The Teams link is then returned to Aptem, so tutors and learners can join either from Aptem or from their Teams calendar. Tutors can join from the review screen, the component or task, and learners can join from the component or the task. So let's look at an example for scheduling a meeting. So it works in a pretty similar way to reviews, but the meeting component in Aptem has an optional task attached to it. Meetings won't be scheduled in Teams until this task is created. In this example, this one-to-one tutorial doesn't yet have an associated task. So the associated task usually sits at the bottom here. So this meeting won't be scheduled in Teams. If we use the Edit Component screen to create a task attached to this meeting, again, ensuring you select the Meet Online checkbox here, this will be picked up in the next scheduling job. Similarly to reviews, the component name will form the meeting name in Teams, and the task details that we've got here will be used to populate the meeting description in Teams. The same scheduling timeframe rules apply to meetings as discussed earlier with reviews. So the meeting will be scheduled in Teams within 3 hours if it's within your scheduling time frame, and the learner again will be invited by email. So we can see we've got the one-to-one tutorial scheduled here in my Teams calendar. So that's scheduling for meetings and reviews, and we can also reschedule meetings from Aptem as well, and these will be reflected in Teams. So of course things can change. We might need to reschedule the meetings that we've got. In order to reschedule either a meeting or a review, simply reschedule the task in Aptem using whichever method you normally use. So we've got the scheduling assistant here, we've got the edit task screen here as well. And these will reschedule it in your Teams calendar almost immediately. So you don't need to wait for 3 hours for this one. We can see I've rescheduled my tripartite review and also my one-to-one tutorial. And I've also made this one an all-day meeting in Teams. So if I flag all day in Aptem here, then it will schedule as an all-day meeting in Teams as well. So the functionality that we've just shown is the functionality as of today, but we are enhancing this functionality both in the May release and the upcoming releases after this. So we'll talk about the May release first and then demo these features. And we've added support for placements and workshops and also added the option to cancel reviews and meetings in Aptem. Pending final testing, these enhancements will be released on the 15th of May with our major release. So firstly, from the 15th of May, you'll be able to cancel a meeting in Teams by deleting a review or meeting component in Aptem. This has the effect of cancelling the tasks in Aptem and therefore removing these tasks from your Teams calendar. The learner and employer, if relevant, will receive a cancellation notification via email, such as the above. And this means that if you make all your changes in Aptem, meetings and reviews will be in sync across both calendars. This also comes into effect when you stop a program for a particular learner. So if a learner's been withdrawn, you might still have tasks in your Teams calendar for them. So all future tasks are cancelled in Aptem and then removed from your Teams calendar for the tutor. And we will also introduce basic support to use Teams for placement and workshop management. Now, this will work slightly differently to reviews and meetings just because of the nature of how placements and workshops work in Aptem already. So set up your placements and workshops as per your normal business processes, and then you'll be able to select Meet Online within these workshops. Once a learner is enrolled onto a future workshop, or if a learner is already enrolled onto a future workshop once you've selected Meet Online, a Teams link will be generated and returned to Aptem. So it's not going to schedule meetings in tutors or learners' Teams calendars, but allows tutors and learners to generate and access the Teams link from Aptem. The workshop owner will be able to start the Teams meeting from the placement workshop screen, and learners can join from the link in their placement workshop task. Learners will be admitted to the lobby for the tutors to allow access, and then you can manage the whole session in Teams as you normally would. And finally, we're planning to enhance the communications connector with Teams further in the next few releases. And we're currently exploring a few features to add. And these include returning attendance for placements and workshops, managing meetings from Teams, and automatic returning of transcripts for reviews and meetings. We will update you via our normal communication channels as and when these features are developed and ready, but we're really keen to gain feedback in the meantime. So if you are using this feature, please get in touch with us and let us know your thoughts so that we can ensure our development efforts in future continue to meet your needs. And then we've got a couple of minutes for some questions. I'm just going to look in the chat if we've got anything. And Hardeep, if you've noticed anything, then please do give me a shout.
Brilliant. Thanks, Freya. Yeah, we have got one question that's come in, a couple trickling through. So we've got one. When the user, or presumably a learner, books the meeting, can they see the tutor's availability so that there are no clashes?
So currently the tutor is the only one who's able to schedule meetings in Aptem. So if you're an administrator maybe booking the tutors meetings for them, you can see their availability in their Aptem calendar, but we've not brought the Teams calendar into Aptem. So the administrator can use the scheduling assistant to see the tutors' other sessions in Aptem, but their Teams calendars won't be in Aptem at that point. And then the learners can't book meetings themselves. That's the Aptem functionality, as is with scheduling reviews. So hopefully that answers the question.
Great. Got a couple more questions come through. Are there any plans to record and store the meetings?
We are looking to potentially looking at options to record, but we haven't set any plans in sort of in motion yet for that. If they were to be stored, they wouldn't be stored in Aptem. They would be stored in your Teams like OneDrive, and then we could potentially link out to that, but we can't actually store those recordings in Aptem just because of the size of the recordings. So we're looking into that, but it's not something that's sort of in the immediate future yet. So if you do have feedback on that, then please let us know. If that's something that is really important to you, then please let us know.
Yeah, definitely echo that. Any sort of feedback that you have will be greatly appreciated. One person's asked whether we can share the presentation. Yes, we will be sharing a recording of this session. It will be available on the Help Center, and if you'd like the slide deck too, we can make that available as well. Not a problem. We've got another question that's come in. So will changes to a learning plan component name or description trigger a reschedule event?
No, so at the moment it's just the date and time changes that trigger that reschedule event. But again, feedback on that is very welcome. If that's something you see yourselves doing quite a lot, then absolutely get in touch and let us know, just so we can see what the possibilities are in future for that as well.
Brilliant, thank you. I think we've got time for one more question, possibly. So I have a number of workshops about to be created. Will I be able to save each one to be used multiple times in the future, adding a Teams link for each different tutor group as required?
Um, I hope I understand the question correctly. I think this is in relation to workshops that are shared amongst tutors, which I know quite often happens. Because the Teams link doesn't schedule in the tutor's calendar, that is a function that's available for you already. So when you click Meet Online, that will generate a link, but that link doesn't go into a specific tutor's calendar. Now, at the moment, the placement owner can only see that link, but in our June release, we have a feature coming in where you can change the owner and the link will be updated so that that tutor can then become the organizer. So the answer is yes, you can use that workshop multiple times as you do at the moment, but just to clarify that that Teams link won't be going into a direct tutor's calendar, and the tutor won't see that in Teams. It will just be via the Aptem platform for placements and workshops.
Thank you, Freya. A couple of people have asked how they can enable the communications connector.
You can speak to your customer success manager about enabling the feature. So we'll need to enable that via our support team. And then we have a configuration screen, which will be coming up in the next few releases, where you can add your domain name and things like that. So if you speak to your CSM, they can help out with getting you access to this. And also we've got a help center article which kind of details the steps that your IT team need to take in a bit more detail, which you can send over to them to get the ball rolling and with the access policy and everything like that.
Brilliant, thank you. Just conscious we're running over slightly, so I think we can wrap that up here. If there are any questions that we didn't get round to, we will definitely follow those up with you individually. Yeah, feel free to get in touch with us at hello@aptem.co.uk if you have any questions, or contact your customer success manager. So we have got a couple of upcoming webinars over the next few weeks. I'd just like to draw your attention to that. If you wouldn't mind just moving to the next slide, Fred, that'd be great. So we've got a session on ePortfolio and using Aptem to prepare for endpoint assessment next week, and Claire Sykes, our implementation consultant, will be running that session. We've got another thought leadership session on adopting AI in your organization, from why to how. Really interesting session, so definitely tune into that if you haven't already registered. And we've got another masterclass on making best use of reviews functionality next month. So keep an eye out on your emails for registrations and invitations to the sessions. And finally, I'd like to just say thank you for everyone joining this session. Just a reminder, we will be sharing the recording of this session. So if you weren't able to make it today, or if you'd like to watch that back, you can do so on the Help Center. And thanks all, and thank you, Freya, for running today's session.
Thanks, Hardeep. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye all.